Now, I don't know about you, but I was looking for a keyboard cover for my iPad Pro 11, and I mean, call me cheap, I was not willing to spend $200 on the original from Apple, especially since it's not that great after all, and it's not like the iPad itself wasn't already more than expensive enough. So I was looking on Amazon for a cheaper alternative that maybe works just about as good, or maybe even has some advantages over the original one like this one has. This is the Fintie keyboard cover that costs only $30, and this is actually also the only one that I found on Amazon that has a proper solution to store the pen whenever you're not using it and you don't want it to be attached to the iPad. So this is a big plus, and it costs only $30, and I'm not going to say it's perfect or that it doesn't come with trade-offs or compromises, which it maybe does in terms of weight, which is about 560 grams, or maybe build quality or some other things, but I'll get into those and I'll still let you know why this is totally worth the money. Because if we, for example, open it up now, you will see that there is an extra plastic case which doesn't use the magnets like the original one does, but this has at least one advantage of adding some extra protection, because you know the iPad tends to bend maybe a little bit easier. And the good thing about this case is also that it doesn't cover up anything essential, because you can still use your pen and you can actually still close it up and still store it like this. But whenever you want it to be safely secured and stored, then you have this option. It also covers or protects the lens, and covers it even when closed, and it doesn't cover anything else, like for example the power button, which is quite important. I'll get into that. The speakers, microphones on the bottom, the microphone, and also the ports on the side. So everything is covered really well in terms of a protection case, but not covered that you can't use it, if you get what I mean. Now, about that keyboard, we will get into that in just a little bit, but what I want to actually cover is this. We have 3 different ridges, so we can position it, which is nice to see, because it's actually one more angle than the original one does, and this is actually the angle that I use the most. But there is one little bit of a caveat, because it uses the magnets, as you can see here, to close the display and turn it on. But those unfortunately are covered up by the keyboard once you use that. So if you use that, now the magnets won't turn off the screen anymore. Therefore, it's important that the power button is still accessible. So that's a little bit of a trade-off, but I mean, it's okay. And the next thing is, for example, if you now open it up, you can't really use the ridges. So what you should do is either take it off, place it wherever you need it to. For example, like this. I mean, like I said, this is not perfect. Or what you could also do, which works, I think, especially if you get used to it after a while. So let's close it up once again. So open it up. Then you just slide it so much as you need to get to the ridge, and then it's fine. So it's not the perfect solution, but it works. I mean, it's also due to the magnets, especially into the placement, not always holding the best, but it gets it done. What I also wanted to show, if you are in the last angle, for example, it actually stands off. But I mean, I don't know how to actually avoid that, because if you would make it longer, then you wouldn't be able to close it up like this and not cover this. Obviously, this could have been moved, but this is I would say, a small trade-off that I don't really know of how they could have avoided. But let's actually use the keyboard once again, and now let's actually talk about that one already. But I actually want to do this in the most comfortable angle for me, which is this one. So the keyboard, this is an actually pretty, I would say, cheapo keyboard that I have a similar one that costs about $10 and had even backlight. This one has no backlight. I mean, I would have wished for that, but it is fine after all. I mean, pairing, super easy, just turn it on, then press, and we are Bluetooth connected. It takes about 4 seconds to react. The good thing is though, as you have seen, you, for example, here have the option to lock it, and you can press either button to just enable, to turn the screen on, and it will with face unlock. And then if you press on it, opens. So that is pretty handy. Like I said, 4 seconds. We can actually try this just so you can see how long it takes. So let's turn it off, turn it on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it usually takes about 3 or 4 seconds. So let's try this once again. 1, 2, 3, 4. As you can see, it works. I could have just used the button as well. So 4 seconds, that's a normal Bluetooth time. Nothing to really complain about here. But what is actually quite nice is that we have a function row here with function buttons that are quite useful, even though I don't know what some of these do. Now this, for example, home button, definitely a pretty handy thing. If I wouldn't have turned it off, it would have also actually worked. So if you can see timestamps, it's usually 3 seconds. Then we have brightness controls, super handy. quickly accessible. We have cut and we have copy. I don't know what these two buttons do. If you know, maybe you can let me know. I thought this would open Safari, but it doesn't. Then we have media buttons, volume control buttons, and like I said, the lock button. That's that. Now, one extra quite cool functionality is if we open, for example, since I've already talked about Safari, not Safari, but in this case, iCap Online. In this case, there is one extra cool functionality. If you press function button and then go left or right, you can actually switch between the tabs, which is super convenient. And if you go up and down, it goes up and down towards the side. That is a quite nice thing. And for example, what happens quite often, that still the software keyboard pops up, even though you have the keyboard attached with Bluetooth. You can then just use this combination to make it appear and disappear. And especially if you use maybe SwiftKey, there is an extra handy function that actually makes my typing quicker. Because, for example, I can type, but if I, for example, have a typo, as you can see, it will actually show me the right one and then do this. For example, let's write truth, and I will write it wrong. Truth. It got it right. So if you're using the right keyboard, this works and it will actually help you type even quicker. And actually talking about typing quicker, I think on this keyboard you will type better than on the original one, for the main reason that this has proper travel, good feedback. I mean, the size, if you're going into the iPad Air 11, you know what you're getting into. But I have to say, I have no real issue in typing on these smaller keyboards, especially with a keyboard that I did not expect for this price to have such a good tactile feedback. So I could type on this really quickly. I did some of my notes, I did some of my emails and everything else, and it works pretty great. One thing that I actually forgot to tell you, but definitely is worth mentioning, is the fact that even though the keyboard is raised, the keys will still touch the screen, and especially if it's smudged up a little bit or if it touches, you will see those caps also on the display. And if there would be some dirt on the keyboard, it could scratch up the display, at least potentially, but that's hard to avoid. And on a cheap solution, I don't think you will find a way to avoid that. So that's just something that I wanted to let you know. So to sum this up, for 30 bucks, you get the function buttons. You get a good keyboard actually, and you can obviously use this also when it's not close to the keyboard, to the iPad, because it uses Bluetooth functionality after all. Then we have a case that adds some extra protection here, but still doesn't cover up anything. You have 3 angles, which is pretty handy. You can attach it, you can close it. You have still access to everything. Like I said, you can store the pen. Build quality is absolutely nice. The whole combo with the pen and everything weighs like 1,050 grams, which is, I think, about as much as, for example, the 12.5-inch laptop cost that I have. Now, as you can see, there is a little bit of a scratch, so maybe build quality over a longer period of time won't be amazing, but it doesn't smell, it feels high quality. It's maybe not super thin or anything like that, but I mean, for 30 bucks, this is a totally fine combo, especially if you get used to how you have to get used to it. You can actually also use this on your lap. I've tried it and it works stable enough to type on it very securely. So it's $170 cheaper. That alone was reason enough for me to get it. And overall, the other ones that I found on Amazon, like I said, this is the main reason. And overall, it does a great job. It's available in different colors. Actually, quite a bunch of them. So, not perfect, but I don't really know how to improve those minor gripes that I had with it. But for the price, absolute easy recommendation. Okay, until next time, bye.